Food, body, self-image, eating, control, all of these things can be such sensitive topics for people. And for me, I'm one of them. I'm someone who has struggled for years when it comes to control over my body, my self-image, food, all of these things. And today I want to talk about these topics because the holidays are coming up and I'm already having food anxiety. And I figure, if I'm struggling with it, then maybe someone else is too, because the end of the year and holiday season is just such a triggering time already. But if you are someone who gets triggered by food or anxiety around eating, control, self-image, all of these things, this is an episode that is for you today, and also for me to remind myself that everything is going to be okay, because it is. So let's talk body. Let's talk about eating, self-image, body neutrality, and control in our lives. Hello and welcome. I'm Michaela, and this is To Be Known, a podcast all about authenticity, vulnerability, and connection. All right, let's get into it. I'm just going to be sharing with you about my own personal experience with some of these themes, not some of these themes, all of these themes that we are going to be talking about today, in case you are someone who is able to relate to this in some sort of way. I really want to make other people feel seen and heard by sharing my story instead of just talking about the things, because I feel as though that's a lot more effective. And I also just want to share with you that this is something that you can get over. This fear of food, this low self-image, this control over food and yourself, and just hating yourself. It's something that you can, I'm laughing because it hurts. This is something that you can get over, and it's taken me a really long time. It took me a lot longer than I would like to admit, but I just want to share that with you. So I'm going to invite you to get to know me today, and hopefully that can help you get to know yourself as well. If you're a loved one, you might learn something new about me today, but this is just my story with food. Growing up, food always caused me some sort of anxiety. I was a really picky eater, and as I got older, I started to branch out with more healthy foods, and I was raised in two households where health and fitness were extremely prioritized and spoken about. And because of that, I really digested a lot of these messages of being fit and healthy in your own life, and how that is like top tier way to be okay in life, is to be fit and healthy and moving your body and all of these things and eating well. And I really digested those messages as I got older, as well as seeing the things in the media of just wanting to be hot and skinny, because if you're hot and skinny, then people will love you more. I mean, is that surprising that I learned that from looking at social media and being on the internet and just existing as a woman in the world? No. But I turned out to have a fear of food when it came to my looks and my worth, probably starting at I want to say 10 years old. I was in dance growing up. So if you're in dance, you are in tight clothing all the time. You're constantly comparing your performance to other girls and what your body looks like and all of these things. So growing up doing dance, it was very much focused on how you looked and how you executed everything. And I just really honed in to my weight and what I looked like as a young girl. This was not beneficial for me in any sort of way, because I really struggled with emotional eating when I was younger as well. I was someone who ate when I was feeling anxious. So when I was a kid and I was bored and I was anxious, I would sneak in the pantry and eat tubs of frosting, which, Dad, you might be learning this now. Or I would sneak ordering Domino's pizza to my mom's house and eating a whole pizza and shoving it in a drawer. And this was something that I did that was such an emotional reaction. So I had this idea that I should be skinny, but then I also had such a hard time with emotional eating that this was a phase of my life where I gained a lot of weight, not a lot of weight, but enough weight for me to feel, quote, fat in 8th grade. And then things took a turn. I started to not eat as much, and I got skinny before my freshman year because I was like, I'm going to go into high school and I'm going to be hot. And going into my freshman year of high school, I got my braces off. I was skinnier. People started noticing me more because I was at a new school. The previous year, in me being 8th grade, no one knew who I was because I was just a fly on the wall and I was just a lonely girl. And then going into high school, I was like, here I am. I'm skinny and I have no braces. And the things that happened socially after that occurred, I started, how do I put this? I started to have more friends when I had no braces and I was skinnier. And this did something to my brain. And then I tried being an Instagram model of sorts throughout high school and being skinny and posting photos of me online. And I really just wanted to look like Alexis Wren and just have a flat stomach 24/7. And I would not really eat that much. And then, I would fluctuate with my weight a little bit, but I really just wanted to be skinny. That was it. That was like main focus, be skinny. And then going into college, I really fell into being a freshman at college. And I just, was a freshman in college, drank a lot of alcohol. And obviously, when you drink a lot of alcohol, you get alcohol bloat and you gain weight. And I was not eating healthy because it was my first year out of the house. I think I put on like 10-ish pounds my freshman year of college, and I was not treating my body well. I hadn't been treating my body well for years at that point, and something occurred where I ended up going back home, and I realized that I needed to take back control of my life because I had lost control and I had paid the repercussions for that. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to take control back because I'm home, I'm alone, I have no friends in my hometown. I'm just not going to eat. And I lost a bunch of weight, and I lost it really fast. And I felt like I had gained my power back. It was a really interesting time being alone in my room, and that being like the thing that gave me my drive was by not eating. I mean, I literally would write down all of the food that I would have in my day. I had like the calorie counter app, which do not download one of those apps. And if you have it download, I mean, you probably have if you have clicked on this video, but the calorie counter app was the worst thing I have ever done to myself. And I always ate around 1,200 calories. You know that number, around there. And the less food I ate, the better I felt about myself. But these were empty promises of an empty stomach. I've written a poem about this. It gave me a false sense of security. And I was this restrictive way for years to come. During all of this, I originally ate all meat, cheese, dairy, whatever, and slowly but surely, as my issues around food sort of happened, I cut out red meat because I had high cholesterol and I wasn't treating my body well. I was eating a bunch of fast food my senior year of high school, or maybe it was my junior year. And then slowly but surely, I cut out chicken my senior year. I went to college, I cut out fish, and then I cut out dairy, and then I went home and I had the idea of, I'm just not going to eat and I'm going to get skinny. And then I became a vegan. And for me, veganism is extremely attached to this control and how to lose weight fast. And I don't know, like it was something that wasn't what veganism is supposed to be. It was more of dysfunctional eating of sorts, and really just like forcing myself to only eat the healthiest foods out there. It was kind of like a orthorexia, anorexia sort of vibe. And I use those terms lightly, or moderately. But I went down that tunnel and I was vegan for a few years, and I really restricted myself for probably about 3 years, as I was dealing with the fallout of a lot of pain and using my focus on eating healthy for years to give me purpose, to give me self-worth, to make me feel like I had control over my life. It was all about control and self-image at the end of the day. What I would be doing during this point in time would be eating as little food as possible, and I would be planning out my weekly meals on my notes app, having everything every single item that I had in my place of living. I would have it in my notes, and I would plan out my week's worth of meals. I would figure out what I would have each day of the week, kind of counterbalancing, like, oh, I'm going to drink this day, so I'm going to eat really healthy and not that much that day. All of these sorts of things. Like, it was a very rigid system. And because of that rigidity over those years, I would also deal with binging, because there would be periods or days where I would just stop caring and I would binge. And binging to me during this season of life was about just eating a lot at once. It was still healthy foods. I was eating like nut and seed crackers with too much hummus, and then, hating myself for that, which was fine, hindsight. But I really struggled with this idea of control. I would lose control, I would gain control. I would lose control, gain control. It was very much this whole control thing for myself. And that lasted for a while, until one day, I think I had broke my veganism, and everything after that just turned into me just full-blown emotional eating and binging and restricting, but giving up the restriction part for the most hand, but me falling out of veganism, me breaking my veganism for an egg, I think, at breakfast, caused a ripple effect where I was just I was such a low point in my life, and I was just feeling really down, and I just fell into emotional eating. And I binged and I binged and I restricted and I binged, and I just really struggled with that for, I would probably say, a year and a half. I had conversations with a couple of people about my eating, but I never cared about it because I just wanted to keep doing it. When it comes to the restriction stuff, people noticed. It was hard not to notice. And I then went to binging. I started living by myself also. It didn't look like anything was wrong because I was still restricting and working out like crazy, but there was something wrong going on with me, and it hurt me for a long time. And it wasn't until one day when I finally broke down to my mom and my best friend that I actually realized I needed to change. And it's been, I want to say, 2 years now since I made that choice of wanting to be better and wanting to change my eating habits. And I can happily say now, it took me a while, took me a long time. I really wasn't able to fully dive into actually having a balanced and healthy relationship with food and control and self-image until probably end of last year, because I felt this layer of security within my life. And yeah, it's been interesting, but I'm finally at a place now where I can happily say that I am in a healthier dynamic with food and my body and control, but I'm still getting anxiety about the holidays. I'm still getting anxiety about eating a bunch of food at Thanksgiving. I'm still having anxiety about just how much food I've eaten as of recently, because me and my boyfriend had a bunch of yummy snacks, and I don't know. I'm not here to say that your anxiety is just going to go away, but I'm here to say that you can get to a place when you start to understand why these things affect you and what they are and how you can learn from them. When you really dedicate and give yourself the time, you can have a healthier balance in your life, because I have salads and I'm eating whatever I want and I'm not having any guilt about it. If I have a slice of pizza, boom, guess what? I had a slice of pizza. I don't have to counterbalance it with anything else. And for that, I'm really proud of myself, because I would have, if I ate a slice of pizza, 3 years ago, I would have literally been like, okay, F you, you're going to walk 5 miles tomorrow. You're not going to eat anything until noon. And then you're only going to have fruits and vegetables later that night. That's what I would have done. And I'm no longer that person anymore. And I just want to talk about all of these things because it's just a triggering time right now. And I hope that my story made you feel a little bit more seen and heard, and also understand me, I guess, a little bit. I don't know. I felt empowered to share that. And let's finally get into control, self-image, and body neutrality for today's episode. When it comes to eating, control is the degree of regulation or management that we have over the food that we digest, how often we eat, and our relationship with food. Some people don't think about what they eat, and they just eat to eat. Some people, that's all they do. All they do is think about food. And some people have more control of food. Some people have less control with food. It's really just dependent on who you are as a person and what your relationship is with food and with control, and those two things combined. It's very dynamic and complex, but there are different levels of control that you can have with your food. Sometimes you can have no control with food, and this looks like emotional eating, or can look like emotional eating. I feel like that's a better way of putting it. When you emotionally eat, it is like an impulse that you have where if you are having anxiety, feeling anger, feeling sadness, the first thing that you do is go, you know what? I'll eat a slice of cake. It's like you have a thought about something, you're having some anxiety about something, and in order for you to stop thinking about that thing, which you're probably going to think about it anyways, you then go to pick out a bag of chips from the cabinet and you munch on those to sort of help you feel better in the situation. It's very much of like a oral fixation, fix me sort of thing, because food can be a way that we cope with emotions. I mean, think about how many movies you see where the girl eats a tub of ice cream because she's sad after, a breakup. We do this naturally as humans. It could help us cope with sadness or boredom or anxiety. It does not matter. But emotional eating can make it feel like you have a lack of control over your eating habits. And this could go a few ways, in my opinion. Some people just emotionally eat and binge and then don't restrict. Some people do emotionally eat, binge, and then they restrict. Or some people just have a healthy relationship with emotional eating where they just do it every once in a while. For some people, it's a lot more prevalent in their lives, and for other people, it's not as prevalent in their lives. And then there's restrictive control, which sounds like what it is. It is you restricting the amount of food that comes into your body. Maybe you are making sure that you're always in a deficit. You're making sure that you are counting your calories or only eating certain types of food. You're only eating healthy foods, not unhealthy foods, or you're only eating certain food categories and leaving out other food categories. It is very restrictive in what you can eat. There is a very finite, small list of things that you allow yourself to ingest and digest. Sometimes control can be healthy, but when you take it too far, when you restrict yourself too much, this is when those unhealthy eating habits and eating disorders can really kick in. And there's different levels to control. There's people who eat healthy and work out and let themselves have ice cream on the weekends. That's a healthy relationship if that's what's healthy for you. But then there's also that control that I previously mentioned in my own story, where it is like every single thing you think about is how little you're going to eat or how healthy you're going to eat. That is not a healthy way of thinking about food and control in your body. And then there is balanced eating. This looks like a mindful relationship with food. You listen to your hunger cues, you listen to your cravings, you don't eat too much if, there's still food on your plate and you're feeling full. You don't force yourself to eat it. You don't force yourself to not eat if you didn't eat previously. You listen to your body's cues and you're mindful about what you ingest, and you also let yourself have fun every once in a while, but you don't let your impulses to eat overpower you. When we look at these three ways of interacting with food and control in our lives and eating control, it is kind of clear to see that it's just a matter of rigidity that you have in your life, your confidence that you have with your eating habits or the things that you do consume. It's a very complex relationship that I don't think many people fully understand, because I didn't understand it for years. And it's just a really interesting thing to talk about because it transfers to our lives. Sometimes when you don't feel in control of your life, you can then look to food to be something that you can control. That's something that personally happened to me when I realized, oh, I'm actually not in control of my life right now. That's how I felt. I went to then look to find control in food in my body. Or sometimes there could be too many things going on in your life and too many things can seem overbearing, and you look to control your food, maybe, but maybe you're someone who emotionally eats because everything is so overwhelming that you need to just help yourself in some way. And emotional eating is something that can kind of help you cope with those emotions and life being too overwhelming. It's like a way that we try to grab at control in our lives. And sometimes we have a healthy relationship with control and eating. Other times we don't. So just food for thought. That kind of sounds redundant, but food for thought. If you are watching this and you are understanding, hey, maybe I don't have the healthiest relationship with food, I invite you to just think about what ways you might be having a loss of control when it comes to food or too much control when it comes to food, and write these things down. And also think about control and food in relation to your self-image, because this is something else that has a lot to do with how you might be feeling about food and eating in your lives. If you are someone who suffers from a low self-image, like me, I've definitely been there, attaching yourself onto trying to eat and be a certain way in order to have a higher self-image, in order to have a higher self-esteem, is something that can be really easy to fall into, especially with diet culture and just the things that you can see on the internet. It is like an overload of that information of eat this meal and you'll have a snatch to waist in 2 weeks, which is not accurate by any means. But if you are consuming that media, I invite you to unfollow and to stop watching that content while you are trying to better your relationship with your self-image and food and control. You have to let go of consuming that media as well. The relationship between self-image and control is deeply intertwined and extremely connected, because self-image can act as a driver for self-control and control over your food. It can be the leading force that puts you in this position of micro focusing on the things that you are consuming. It's just the truth of it. Like, if you have low self-esteem, what is the first thing you think of to make yourself feel better? Fixing your appearance. What is the top thing that you think of when it comes to fixing your appearance? Your food, or the things that you wear, or how your skin is. The desire to fit societal standards of what we should look like, or what they say we should look like, is really attached to this idea of being fit. And being fit, having a perfect physique, obviously the things that we're going to focus on rather than working out is going to be food, because that is the easiest thing we can control without having to force ourselves to go into the gym or go outside or work out or whatever, because that might take too much effort. It might take too much time. The easiest thing for you to niche down on is food. And I'm saying this because I am guilty of this. This desire to fit these standards and to make ourselves feel as though we are attractive to other people and ourselves can lead to overly restrictive eating behaviors, because being skinny and not eating are two things that go hand in hand, or eating less. If we are wanting to lose weight, we must be in a calorie deficit. How many times have you heard this? But this is not the only way that you can feel self-worth in your life and have a higher self-image. Having a strict control over your food as a means to make your appearance fit what you want for yourself is not going to last over time, because these are not sustainable habits to have over time. I mean, I restricted for years and it led to me binging for a year and a half. And I I fell apart during that period of my life. So I just want you to know this is not a sustainable way to live, and you will have to get out on the other side in order to understand that it isn't. Or maybe you already do. When you have the physique that you desire, when you are doing it in an unhealthy way, that will give you a temporary boost of self-esteem and confidence, which feels great in the moment. Trust me. When I had a really flat stomach, oh my God, I was like king of the crop. I was the happiest girl in the world. I was empowered. I was like, oh my God, yay, finally. And that quickly faded away because that doesn't last. It doesn't last. And you go through ups and downs and all arounds. This control over food can temporarily boost your self-confidence. And this is temporary, because if you are not doing it in a healthy way where you achieve your physique in a healthy way, that will fade away. Your self-criticism will stay high and you will only find something else for you to fix or another thing to achieve when it comes to your appearance or your physique. It just is not a sustainable way of living. Something else that goes along with having a poor self-image is using control as a coping mechanism. I mentioned this earlier, that this is something that I was doing because I didn't feel control over my life, as well as not having control over how I felt about myself, about my self-image. I just felt so lost that making sure that I was restricting what I was eating gave me a sense of purpose to love myself in some sort of way, which is a very just warped way of viewing myself and viewing my eating habits and viewing my body. This level of control that I had over myself became an obsession. It became something that gave me so much purpose and meaning because everything else felt so out of control, but it was honestly one of the only things that was giving me purpose at one point in time. To me, it's funny to think about how this thing that I grabbed onto to give me self-esteem and a better self-image actually ended up worsening my self-image over time, because I just didn't have a grip on what really mattered about myself and where my self-worth was, that when I binged, I would just have such a high feeling of guilt and shame. And these were already feelings that I was battling with on the daily, but it really hurt me more than I can even put into words, because I felt like I wasn't worthy, I wasn't good enough because I couldn't just stick to my restriction. It just made me feel worse over time, because I would love myself when I was really good at my restriction, but I would hate myself if I fell off, even for a day or an hour or two. I just want to note that over time, as I have become more balanced and healthy with my eating habits and my control over eating and my life and all of these things, I have felt so much better about my self-image throughout this process. And I don't have a radical sense of body positivity or self-love, but I don't suffer from those feelings of guilt and shame that I had on the daily, depending on how I was interacting with food and how much food I was eating, what food I was eating. Everything has led to me feeling a lot more control over my emotions and my attachments to food and my body, because I actually have a healthy relationship with all of these things. I'm really proud to say that my thoughts are no longer consumed by food or what I look like or my weight. None of these things matter to me as much as they once did. And for that, I'm proud. Through it all, through all of those years, through all of that trouble, through the restriction and the binging and the emotional eating and just letting myself go and coming back to myself and admitting that I have had a problem for years, and finally getting help from a therapist that was specialized in eating disorders, I finally have a healthy relationship with eating and my body. I have finally accepted my body for what it is. I have finally accepted myself for who I am. And I have finally accepted the fact that food does not have to be scary. Food does not have to be something that gives me comfort. Food doesn't have to be something that gives me anxiety. Food is just food, and I eat it to eat it, and that is okay. For me, food was extremely attached to my self-image, and I feel like if you are someone who struggles with food, it's probably really attached to your self-image. These things are deeply intertwined, like I said. But when you are able to have a more positive or neutral approach to accepting your body, then you are able to see how your negative self-view affects every aspect of your life, and that you might have just been pinpointing this negativity in your life on food. When you are not as focused on your appearance or how you're being perceived in the world, then you are able to feel less attached to your eating habits, what you are consuming, and all of these things. That level of like pressure and control and rigidity is then given a break, and you feel like you are able to breathe again. When you are able to accept yourself for who you are and love yourself for who you are, and see that your eating habits, your control over food, your issues with self-image, all of these things, how all of these things have been affecting you and hurting you, and how you've just been trying to cope with your pain, you are then able to make conscious choices to help your overall health and well-being. Because well-being, it is physical, but it's also mental, it's also spiritual, it's also emotional. All of these things interact together to make you the best version of yourself. So when you are able to look and see how these things over control and food and just not feeling like you have the ability to be you without thinking about food, which is, I don't know, that's, if you know, you know. But when you are able to think about yourself without thinking about food or how you look, you will feel so much lighter and brighter and happier in your life. And maybe today is the day where you allow yourself to start trying to think about your body in a neutral or positive way. For me, body neutrality has worked the best, because the idea of body positivity that you see on the media, for me, it's a little bit too radical of an idea for me to fully love every single inch and body part and thing about my body. To be honest, it's an absurd thought for me. But when I look at my body and I see it in a neutral way, where I just have acceptance for what it is, and I'm able to just see that it's a body, I'm able to see that I have arms and legs and a stomach and a butt and a back and feet and hands and elbows and shoulders and knees and toes and all of these things, my nose, my face, everything. When I'm just able to see that I just have a body, and that it is okay, and that I am okay, and that I'm allowed to take up space, and that it's okay for me to just simply be who I am without having to feel the need to be perfect, without feeling the need to eat perfectly or have the perfect body or look perfect or any of these things to make myself feel better. When I let all of that go, I was just so much happier in my life. And for me, body neutrality has worked the best for me. So I want to share with you what body neutrality is for you to make your own opinion about it, because I do want to share with you what body neutrality has meant for me. I just want to give a quick definition on what body neutrality is. Body neutrality is the philosophy that encourages people to look at their bodies as a body. You look at what it is that your body can do, how it supports you, how it keeps you alive, how it keeps you safe, and accept it for what it is. It's about looking at what your body can do and how it feels to be in your body, because your body is your own. Some of the important things for me when it comes to body neutrality is that it's an idea of acceptance over appearance. When you are looking at your body in a neutral way, you are seeing, how does my body function? What do my arms do? What do my legs do? What does my core do? And you are just allowing it to be what it is without trying to make it anything different. Because when you look at acceptance rather than appearance, when you look at your body through the lens of appearance, you might be wanting to change something about yourself. You might want to be making your arms a little bit more toned, or your butt a little bigger, or your waist a little more snatched. Those are things for me that I personally want, but I don't allow myself to focus on those things anymore. I make myself focus on having acceptance over those parts of me and just letting them simply be, because that is what they are. It is about mentally focusing on the fact that your worth is not attached to your appearance, which can be a lot more easier said than done. Another thing that I love about body neutrality is that it focuses on function and your experience in your body. Just as I said earlier, you let your arms be arms, you let your legs be legs, and you see that they serve a purpose in order to keep you alive and to help you live your life throughout the day. It is all about how your body feels and what your body does. So if you are having a day where you are feeling a little bit more tired and your body is a little sore, you don't go and force yourself to go work out. You allow yourself to rest and relax, because that is what your body needs. If your body is hungry, then you allow yourself to eat instead of restricting. You allow yourself to exist and be in the world as you are. It's all about shifting your focus on having gratitude for what your body does for you rather than what it looks like. What I love about body neutrality is that it doesn't feel forced like body positivity does. In my opinion, I just can't love myself and love my body every single day. That is not how I operate as a human being. I have my days where I'm just like, ugh, I just look bad, I look ugly, I don't feel good about myself, and I'm just going to let myself have that day. I'm going to let myself, be like, you know what, today is what it is, and tomorrow I will feel better about myself, but I'm not going to look at myself and force myself to love myself in the mirror if that is not how I'm feeling. Body neutrality allows you to have that grace with yourself, to not feel amazing about yourself all the time, because you feel neutral about your body. You are able to go with the ebbs and flows of how you feel about yourself when you are focused on this state of mind. Body neutrality really just focuses on promoting mind-body connection, where you are existing in your body, noticing how you feel and what you need from yourself in any given moment. As we close out of today's episode, I really want you to look inwards and connect with your mind and your body and your soul, because today was honestly a heavy episode. We covered a lot of hard themes in today's episode, and if you are someone who is struggling with control over eating or your self-image or any of these things, I invite you to just take some time for yourself today, maybe journal and think about how these things are affecting you. If you want to talk to me, you could always comment down below. I would be more than willing to chat with you online, but these are things that you can get over. I don't even want to say get over, but these are things that you can overcome. This might be one of the battles that you have in life that you are going to have to face, but I just want you to know that you are not alone. You can always talk to me. If you are struggling with food, you are not alone. There might be people in your life who are also struggling with the same things as well. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who you love and trust, and talk about these things with them, because I promise you, some people will be extremely receptive to it and hear you out for what you have to say. Other people might not understand, and that's okay, because maybe they don't have issues with food or control or self-image like you might do, and that's okay. But I really invite you to connect with yourself today. Try to take care of yourself today. Try to connect with another person after this. If this is something that you feel like you need to talk about, talk to someone about it, because people are there to listen to you. And I just want you to know that this is something that you can overcome. I've overcome it, and I know there are lots of people out there who have overcome it. It just takes time, attention, love, energy, and support for you to get through this issue, for you to come out on the other side feeling stronger, happy, healthy, and just thrilled to be alive, thrilled to be in your body, thrilled to be doing the things that you do. Wow. It's just going to be interesting putting out this video and just my emotions that I'm going to have after putting it out to the world, because this is something that is so near and dear to my heart and my own journey in life. But if I helped you today, that's why I did it. And I hope that I made you feel seen and heard. With all of that being said, it is time for our question of the week. What is one quality about yourself that you enjoy? It could be physical, it could be personality, it could be mental, whatever it is, think of a quality that you like about yourself. Think about it, write about it, talk to someone who you love and trust about it. I will be back next week with another episode. If you are watching on YouTube and you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button. If you're watching on Spotify, please feel free to give me a 5-star review. It honestly helps more than you know, and feel free to follow on there as well. You can also follow me on Instagram at @tobeknownpod or TikTok at @tobeknownpod as well. All of the links will always be down below in the description. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care of yourself. You deserve to take care of yourself today. Stay true to you. Bye.